If I don't put the box, we get all this stuff over here, and then my start bar, and it looks all ugly. Start bar. And now it's not. Success. So what are the zeros for 1A? This one has no. It has an E. All right. And 1B. So now, using what we talked about, what do you think the factors of this are going to be? Not x plus 3. Remember, it's got to be the opposite. Well, so we can assume, since there's only one answer for this, it's already x squared, so we can't take a greatest common factor out of this. We can say that our factors are probably going to be x minus 3, x minus 3. And does that work? There you go. The reason why it has to be opposite is because we want x to make this whole thing equal 0. So to get 0, you'd have to take the opposite of positive 3, which is negative 3. Okay? Like an equation that doesn't match the graph they give you? I'm pretty sure that's what he just said. That's what she said, but it's not. I doubt they would give you the incorrect equation. Unless the problem was which graph matches this equation, which case they'd give you 4 and you'd have to figure it out. And then 3 of them would be wrong. Okay. I don't know. All right, now into the good stuff. Tough. We're moving on. You can watch it later and pause it. Wouldn't hurt. All right, here's the first thing we're going to find. The axis of symmetry. Hopefully you've noticed every one of our parabolas had something in common, and that was what's on one side of it is the exact same as what's on the other side, which means every parabola has a line of symmetry. Okay? Yes. So this can be helpful to you because if you knew the line of symmetry, if you have half of the points, you can simply not do the math for the other half because you know what they're going to be. Yes. So, two situations you're going to have. If you have 1, 0, then that 1, 0 is going to be the axis of symmetry. Phone's ringing. All right, so if you have 1, 0, that's your axis of symmetry, nice and easy. If you have 2 zeros, then it's right in the middle between those two. This axis sounds cooler. Yes, it does. We found the zeros, but now we're going to see like cool stuff we can do once we have the zeros. Cool stuff as opposed to lame stuff like playing Black Ops. Symmetry. wonder if when they made the word symmetry, they tried to make it symmetrical. Like you can see, they've got the SYM on one side, and they've got an M and a Y on the other. They were trying to think, it's like, how can we make this work? But that was...
Should have just like called it the axis of race car by the axis of
Oh, no, it should be the axis of...
But did you know, if you had...
It should be the axis of try-me-try.
But if it was a 6-axis of symmetry...
Yeah, but the A, if you cut the A in half, it's not equal. It would have to be an O, like the 6 opposites.
It has to be a capital A. Then it should be try-me-try.
No.
Right, try-me, and then try.
Ah, okay. Whatever. All right. So we got this. We wrote all this down.
No.
So you can work it out. It's just like finding the median. You take the 2 points and average them together. Okay. Underlining important words. All right, so we have the zeros up here. It's graphed for us. So we want to know, where is the axis of symmetry? So on letter A, it would be, remember it's a whole line. So how could we indicate the name of the line? I guess there is some linear parts to this.
The line of 2.
What is this equation right here? So with the, what is 2? What is true about any point on this line? So what is the equation for this line? Okay. So the axis symmetry is where x equals 2. Okay. I feel like it took me way too long to recognize that I could do this. I always thought you could only either move it up or down or left and right. It never occurred to me that you could do both. I felt kind of dumb. Unfortunately, you can't go from... Oh, no, you can't. I thought I could move the box, but no, it just gets bigger. So you can't bring it in from the left and the right. Yeah, you could, but that takes work. All right, how about letter B? Where would our axis of symmetry be? Why do we know it's 3? Because we have this point where x is 1 and x is 5, so halfway between 1 and 5 is 3. Okay? Hooray. And don't laugh at the person who said 6, because if you take 1 plus 5, that's 6, and then you divide it by 2, which is how you find the average of something. All right. So now what you need to think about is using your smartitude. How can we use this piece of information to determine the coordinates of the vertex? Think about it. Don't say it out loud. Think about it. If you didn't have the graph, let's say we only gave you an equation and the axis. How could you find the vertex?
By using your smartphone.
Without a calculator, all you had is your brain and those 2 pieces of information. Okay, seriously, when I say don't shout it out, I mean just think about it. Okay. Let them think. About what? It's kind of vague. Question about this, all right? Your paper is made in a factory. I do not know how they make the wire all coily. Probably a lot of work. That is a smart board. It uses a projector. It takes the image from the computer and projects it onto the screen. And then using thousands of little sensors directly underneath the board, it can recognize
How do you connect it?
USB cable.
How do they make a speed cable?
I thought that was like
Factory.
Factory.
It's just a 4-pin connector. It's not really that highly complicated.
if you go on Netflix on this, it'd be like a
Oh, okay. Go ahead. The parabola? The axis symmetry? Yes. If we knew x was 3, and it gave us the equation for that parabola without the graph, could you determine?
Could you determine yes?
We got it now? You think? Well, Mackenzie had her hand up first. Does she still want to answer? Right, but what if we had the axis symmetry, we wanted to find the vertex? Okay, put the numbers in the equation, and then what? What numbers? There you go. Oh, we're not there yet. We have 2 more examples to do. All right. So, we're going to get there. But a couple more of these, because they're nice and easy. What's the axis symmetry right here? And how about this guy right here? We have -2 and +4. Again, if you have a graph, that's pretty easy to see. What? Did you just ask me why I wear my gym clothes to PE? So I don't get points taken away? Duh. Because maybe he has gym class later. Don't hate. That's technically later. All right. Okay. So if they don't give you the graph, this becomes a little bit more complicated. So you could find the zeros, and that might be fun. Or you could use this handy little formula that says x equals -b over 2a. 2a. Okay. That's so weird. Okay.
Is there any keywords that we write down or you write down?
You don't have to, but when we take a quiz on it and you're like, I don't remember how to do this, and I say, well, look at your notes, and you're like, I was supposed to take notes? How preposterous.
Why didn't you say me? I have more notes than you. Oh, really?
Okay, you got me.
What was your height?
Let's check it overall.
I win. Does anyone have quiz on tomorrow?
Just the front page. The front page.
Wait, that's messed up.
How are his teeth closed? I love I love math nuts. It has like the tongue, like I think his tongue.
It only has two teeth.
Like his tongue is flying out of his mouth.
It's because,
What if it's not? He's cut off his tongue.
wait, wrong color.
He's bleeding.
Oh, I know, isn't that dude? He's got a gap between his teeth.
Clearly, he's a hockey player.
I don't care.
There's no teeth there. At all.
Can you color black?
He's a
Yeah, well, his skin's like.
That's like one of those cartoons. Terrible. Missing some teeth. He's missing all his teeth.
Missing couple teeth.
He's missing everything. He's missing just a few.
There. Better?
He's a demon. That does not even look. That looks like a can opener. Oh man. How what's a can opener? So I don't know. Can openers.
Okay, so,
Ah, what the? He looks like.
what?
I'm still writing.
Seriously, I wrote all this down and drew a picture, and you still haven't finished?
Well, I'm drawing that too.
I'm distracting?
Yes.
How?
You're you.
Okay, can you stop breaking all my... Alright, moving on. So, oh no, answers.
Some guns you can't even hold down the trigger. Not all of them are full auto. Oh, -1.
Whatever. Alright, so, if it gives the equation, you find A and B. So in this case, A is 1, B is, so we say -3 over 2 times 1. We do a little bit of math here. 2 times 1 is?
2.
So we have -3 over 2. So what is our axis of symmetry? -3 over 2.
Do we write down steps?
Really, the steps are find A and B and then solve. So I don't know if you really need those steps. Very good.
Wait, where do we get?
The 2 is just part of the little formula. It's always 2 times A. Right. Okay. So that should be halfway between our two factors that give us x squared plus 3x plus 4. So what multiplies to positive 4 and adds up to 3? Would be
Say the question.
Does that work? Does 3 plus 1 equal 3?
No.
Yeah?
No.
Oh, you said 3 times 1. No, -4 plus -4. -4 times 1, yes.
But that would multiply.
-4 times 4. Wait, what was
Still multiplies to -4.
multiply to 3 or multiply to 4?
Dude, it's written up here.
You scrapped it.
Oh, so it multiplies to 4. Okay.
Can you factor that?
Yes, you can factor.
Well, graph it.
Oh, let me.
See what the graph looks like.
Can I just like use the box?
X squared plus 3x plus 4. Let's see what that looks like.
I thought this was.
But we know one thing for sure. Of course it's a U. It's every quadratic formula makes a parabola.
It's not factorable.
Does it have any zeros?
No. Wait. Yeah, it's unfactorable.
How do you know?
Because I'm trying to do it on the box.
You're trying to. So we definitely need to practice how to do this, how to graph it. Because Schaefer was telling me if you can graph this, you can get a lot of this information using the calculator. So what we're doing today is kind of the old school way of doing stuff. Like if you were lost in the wilderness and didn't have a graphing calculator. But while you're out in the wilderness, you still needed to find the axis of symmetry of some.
That's the only way to get the food to the cave. You needed the exact. My computer doesn't work that way. I was kidding. The calculator only is there to use.
Correct.
You tried to change this.
Oh, there we go. I got it.
All right. So do we see it? Does it look like it crosses the x-axis? No. Which would explain why we can't factor it.
Oh, well, I can't factor it, but then I multiplied everything by 2.
Okay.
Using the box, right?
So that's why we need this little formula, because checking the graph won't always work so well, because you might not always have zeros.
So you can use the box.
I guess, technically, you could. The Sailor Man? All right. You could, but sometimes factoring's not the fastest way to do stuff. So we have negative b over 2a. So what is b?
3.
No. What is the coefficient in front of? So b is 1 over 2 times, and the whole thing is negative. So what's 1 over 4? So there's our axis of symmetry. Okay. What? That's our line of symmetry, yes. So this is x equals negative 1/4. So if we looked at our grid here, at x is negative 1/4, and then we think, is our graph going to open up or down? Up. So that means we're going to have some kind of parabola here. And we're still not sure because we haven't got that far yet to figure out where it would be. But we know that the vertex would have to be right on this red line. Okay? So then we talked about how can we figure out what the y value would be of our vertex. What did we say we could do? Put the x into our equation, which is what we're doing now. Woo. forgot my order earlier. So we can't identify the vertex using this. So 3-step process. Step 1, find the axis symmetry. Step 2, substitute the x-coordinate into the function. Step 3, eat cake. Or write it as an ordered pair, whatever. Because really that step 3 is sort of unnecessary. It's like having to be reminded, it's like, once you work out the problem, write down the answer. Hopefully you don't have to like remind yourself that that's one of the steps, but it's one of the steps. Kind of like how at the end of any recipe for a cake, the very last step should be eat the cake. Serve it to be eaten. Because you got to wonder if there's some people like, oh man, I made this cake. Now what? How we just look at it till it goes bad?
Cake doesn't go bad.
Yes.
What kind of cake do you eat?
Unless you put it in the freezer. Because I guess some people, they take like part of their wedding cake and put it in the freezer and save it forever.
And eat like another bite.
Our anniversary, whatever. I don't know.
Like every anniversary, they have like a bite.
I don't know. There's no food in Twinkies. It's just very processed sugar. Super. Was that before or after everything was about Selma Hayek? Because I don't know who's in 5th period of Mr. Science, but I was over here trying to put in grades, and it was like every 2 minutes they're shouting out, Selma Hayek. I was like, okay. Yeah. Well, it's good to have goals. Even, what? Yeah, well. Some things are stronger than marriage.
Do you want to get married, sister?
Okay. I don't remember what the question was that I stopped talking about, but Selma Hayek. Okay.
The question was that.
And if anyone asks, we totally weren't talking about Mr. Science while he wasn't here.
Why?
And there's no proof of that, clearly. Okay, so this one kind of has the answer, but that's okay. So find the vertex. The first thing we would do, step 1 is to find the axis of symmetry. So we say negative b over 2a. So b is Negative 2. So we have negative negative 2, which really is just positive 2 over 2 times,
Wait, how'd you get negative negative 2?
because it's minus b.
How'd you get plus?
You subtract the negative, really you're just adding. So 2 times what's a?
But if it's plus plus 2.
A is not 0.
Oh, 1.
Negative 1. So we have 2 over negative 2, which simplifies to. So x is negative 1. There's our. Well, on this one, what they did is they used the graph. And I guess that's cool if you have the graph, but I'm going to assume we don't always have that. So they just looked at, remember we talked about we could find it by taking the average of our zeros? So what's halfway between 0 and negative 2? Negative 1. So either way, you can get the same answer. Right? So then to find, all right. Yeah, great. It was almost funny 8 years ago. Not anymore. That's not part of that end game, though. So joke's over. Deal with it. Move on with your life. Okay. Find the corresponding y coordinate. So if we take our equation, which is y is negative x squared minus 2x, and we say if our axis symmetry is negative 1, so we have negative 1 squared minus 2 times negative 1. And that is a tremendous looking problem to work on. That's not hard. There's no number bigger than 2. So you start with the exponent. So what's negative 1 squared?
Negative 1 squared.
1. So we have negative 1 minus 2 times negative 1. What would we do next? 2 times negative 1, which is, well, I'm sorry. I should have said negative 2 times negative 1, which is, so now we have negative 1 plus 2, which is positive 1. So when x is negative 1, y equals positive 1, which means our vertex is at the coordinates negative 1, 1. And could we have totally figured that out just by looking at the picture for 2 seconds? Yes, because it's right here. But what are we assuming? That we're not going to get a picture. It would be, except the fact that there's an exponent here, and order of operations says you got to do the exponents first. You got to trust me on this. Okay? If your x value is negative, you have to square it first before you put on this negative on the outside. And then you think, boy, I'm so glad Ellis told us to always factor out the negative first, because if you did that, you wouldn't have to deal with that nonsense. Yes? You mean like a different thing we worked out here? I don't care. Right. For this equation. Only for this one. Okay? Like the math part here, or just where all these numbers came from? You just nodded your head. To which one? Both?
The second one.
Okay, well let's start with where the numbers came from. So x and x, right? But we said x is negative 1. That's what we care about. So anywhere we see x, we replace it with negative 1. Okay? And then it's just a matter of solving. Okay? So that's why we do the axis symmetry first, so that tells us what we want our x value to be. Well, that's good because we're going to have like 80 million more to practice on. I'm just kidding, it's more like 30. This is just the formula that they gave us for the axis of symmetry. And understanding why it works is not as important as just being like, all right, I'll buy that. And we'll get into more later what A, B, and C really mean. And we can see more or less where that came from. Well, because what is, running out of room to write stuff here. Remember, we have our standard form of this, right? And then we take our equation that it gave us, which is negative x squared minus 2x. Okay? So what is the coefficient in front of x squared? Well, not 1, but it's negative, so it'd be. So we say a is negative 1. How about the coefficient in front of x? Is negative 2.
But how do you know A is not
And then c is nothing, so we put 0.
No, not to get A and B mixed up.
A is what's in front of x squared.
Oh.
B is what's in front of x. Okay? And so then if we use our formula here, we just put in the values of A and B. So B we said was negative 2, and A was negative 1. So we probably should have put this up here. And we're going to do lots more of these, so if you don't get on the first try, that's okay. Okay, shh. It's not funny when they come back. What's up?
I was never here.
That's why you came back.
Never here.
You were here yesterday. Because what's 2 divided by negative 2? Yes, that's why we recorded this. All right, so find the vertex of this mess right here. It doesn't give you the graph. Say hooray, no graph. Okay. So what's the first thing we need to find? All right, so we can say, what is A? A is 1. B is, and just for fun, C is negative 10. Okay, then what?
Explaining to him what we're doing.
Okay, you go online tonight and watch it. Until then, you just follow along. What? 15? Boom, 38. We're getting there.
How come that's just one? How come it's not like, oh, never mind.
Okay. So once we have this, what do we find next?
Shorter video.
What did we say step 1 was? Okay. So we use our formula. Don't ask me for a pencil. No. What? You missed the first hour and a half. So our axis symmetry, x is equal to negative b over 2a. So if b is what? So we have negative negative 4 over 2 times 1. So if we have negative negative 4, really that's, so we have positive 4 over 2, which simplifies to, so x just equals 2. All right? 4 divided by 2 is 2.
2 over 1.
Yeah, so if you
2 over 1. What's 2 over 1, Holly?
Yes, that's the same thing as 2 over 1, but we don't write that because it's unnecessary. Top in, bottom out. Okay. So that's step 1. Find the axis symmetry. Step 2. So substitute. So we substitute and find y. So our formula is y equals x squared minus 4x minus 10. So what are we going to replace every single x with? With a positive 2. So we're going to have 2 squared minus 4 times 2 minus 10. And you're going to happily work that out. Aww. Cake. You know, they're like the round things. You put frosting on them. You serve them at parties. Sometimes you put candles in them.
I like the fondant. I like fondant.
So we've got 4 minus 8 minus 10, which is... So what does that mean? So our vertex is at this point 2, negative 14. Well, our line of symmetry is this line x equals 2. And now the last question asked about this one, is that point the minimum or the maximum? It's definitely one of those two.
Wait. It's a minimum.
Okay. So we have this one point, and it's in the very center of our parabola. Which way does it open? Up. Why up? Because it's positive, which means that is our minimum. Okay? How many how many zeros would this have? Why 2? If we drew the grid around it, what would it look like? So, some assumptions we can start making here. If y is negative, right, and it opens upwards, how many zeros should we have? 2. What if y was positive and it opened up?
0.
That'd be 0 because it would be somewhere up here. It could never get back to the x-axis. Okay? Because we say this graph opens upwards, right? Which means it goes on all the way up through the ceiling. Right? But if the minimum value of that was above, whoops, shut up. If it was above the x-axis, could there be any answers where y is 0? So if the vertex is below and it opens upwards, then you'll have 2. Okay? Yes. Which means we should potentially be able to factor this. It might not come out to even numbers, but you could do x minus something, x plus something, and get an answer there.
Where did your ribbon go?
Okay, or you could graph it. You have a calculator in front of you. Oh, unless you got here an hour and a half late. you would put, if you wanted to graph it, you would graph the original equation. And it should look a lot like that. Assuming because you missed the first hour of class? That's pretty, yeah, throw it away.
Why is negative will it always be will it always have 2 zeros?
If it opens upwards. And then the opposite would be true if it opened downwards, where you'd want y to be positive. Okay? Okay. All right, next one. This is what I was talking about when you're out in the wilds. So, you're in your boat. You are, I'm aware it's a bridge, but you're in your boat, you're over here. Because it's outdoors. Okay, imagine this is shark-filled water. Okay, wild enough for you? And you're trying to go under this bridge, and if you don't fit, your boat sinks in with the sharks. All right? Okay, it's officially wild. All right, so all you know is that for some reason, you have this information handy. Okay? And we want to know, can a sailboat that is 24 feet tall, that's your boat, pass under the bridge? No. So what point are we looking for? We're looking for the maximum, which would be, because unless you're, I don't want to name names, people who want to be a Holly, that would try to take their boat right here, which would not. The Hollies that want to be in the WNBA. Okay? So, generally speaking, hey, if you're worried you're not going to fit under something, you find the tallest point. So what we're looking for is this vertex. What y value are we trying to get? But what needs to be true? 24 or higher. So we need for our vertex to be y needs to be greater than or equal to 24. So how can okay. Well, but it'll just like skim it. All right. Okay. So how can we find that vertex? We start by finding the all right, I guess we can put A, B, and C. So what's A?
007.
All right, how about B? C is 0.8, whatever. Without even looking at the equation, could we have known that A was going to be negative? Why is that? Because it opens down. Okay, so now we need axis of symmetry. I don't know. I get bored with writing it. No, there's definitely 2 M's. We went over this. You missed it. You know why? Is you weren't here for the first hour. Okay. No, we're not giving anybody that. All right. So, what is our formula to find axis symmetry? Negative. All right. So, what is the negative value of B? Negative 0.84. Divided by 2 times negative 0.007. Super. Okay. I didn't take attendance yet, but yes. You weren't here first period. I can't mark you present. Yeah, well, it's excused absence, but you're still. If you're not in the room, then. Okay, you are though. That's like saying, I walked in 5 minutes early. I'm not tardy because I was in the building. Just because I wasn't in the room doesn't mean I wasn't here. So what does this work out to? You have a calculator. Okay. It's going to be positive. It's going to end up being bigger than 0.84. It's probably going to be some kind of whole number. Actually, it pretty much would need to be a whole number because it's going to be like out here.
It's not the middle for my angle.
Did you divide it?
That doesn't make sense though, because when it should get smaller.
Anytime you divide by a number less than 1, your answer gets bigger. So this is x equals 16. What? You sure? Because remember, it's not x that we're looking at. We need. So how can we solve for y? So 60. You guys with your fancy calculators. I don't even barely even have a negative sign on mine. Divided by 0.014. Who said 16? I'm gonna smack it. Mackenzie, what'd you get? Okay. I forget that the boys are louder but much more incorrect. All right, so if x is 60, how can we solve for y? Something similar to that. Okay, as your elder, it's my job to try to tell you when you're about to do something foolish. Okay, and it's better me telling you that you look than when you go up to the girl you like, that, hey, what's up? And she's like, your collar, really? Okay. So I'll take a thank you, Mr. Ellis, for trying to protect us from ourselves. Okay. So we worked that out. Remember to do the exponent first. So 60 squared is 3,600. All right. 0.84 times 60. It's going to equal something. What? All right, you guys multiply this out. I'll do the adding over here. You guys have calculators. Like, oh, it's so hard. It's 3 digits times 4 digits, and 4 of them are zeros. Oh. Don't tell me I sound horrible. Leave Mike alone. 0.007 times 3,600 quickly. So, we agree? Okay. So negative 25.2 So negative 25.2 plus 51.2 is? 70. What? It's negative. 51 minus 25 is? 26. What? Okay. Which means that the highest point of this bridge is at 26 feet, which means the boat will fit. The boat is 24 feet. The bridge, 26 feet, which means 2-foot waves don't usually go underneath bridges. Yeah. All right, so there you go. And you know, if you had like the newest version of the calculators, you could actually go out on a boat and you can actually capture a picture of the arc of the bridge, and then it will actually give you the equation used to make it. So, what? Why not? What? Because if you're taking a boat underneath the bridge and you need to know, well, it would give you the answer too. Yeah. Not all of us plan to stay inside of our houses and be like, whoa, fishing is a sport. Clearly. All right. So, same idea. Try this one on your own. Bonus points for people with the right answers. 57 minutes. Oh my goodness. So to find our axis of symmetry, negative b divided by 2a. So a is negative 0.07. Don't forget your negatives. B is 0.42. So you substitute those into our equation. So negative 0.42 divided by 2 times 0.07. Negative. Clearly, you can tell the difference. No, we're going to turn in tomorrow because half the people aren't here today. Not really half, it's more like 1/3, but nobody checks my fractions that carefully. Except for the 8 people that aren't. So x is 3. So that is our what? What do we call that? That's not the vertex, that's the axis of symmetry. So which is also the x-coordinate of our vertex. So how can we find the y-coordinate? We substitute it into our equation. Fortunately, it comes out to a nice even number. Clearly, the people who designed the roller coaster were friendly people. You're fine, negative 0.07 times 3 squared plus 0.42 times 3 plus 6.3. Yeah, I'm fine. Okay, too late, just erase it. I don't care. Stuff to do. Don't worry, it's saved forever. Plus 6.37. So 3 squared is 9. 9 times 0.07 is negative 0.63. And then plus 0.42 times 3 would be 1.26. Don't. 1.26. He's doing the whole thing. Plus 6.37. Then if we combine all that out, we do get, well, Will says 8.36. He's wrong.
It's just 7, solid. No, because it's a negative. It's 7. How do you do this?
All right.
There's a subtraction sign out there.
No. Plus 1.26 plus 6.37 equals 7. So what is the vertex? 3.7. Which way does our graph open? Down. So how many zeros would we have here?
1. No. 0. Wait. 0. No.
There would be 2. Because it starts out above the x-axis and opens downwards. How do we know if it's going to open up or down? If y is, or I'm sorry, not y. If a is negative, it opens down. If a is positive, it opens up. Okay? Bonus points? Sure. 10 points for Gryffindor. All right. So, a couple quick writing things. Why is the 0 of a function the same as the x-intercept? Write it down. Write it down in your notebook. No. Yeah. That's only like 360 seconds. Write down why it's the same thing. Lizette said, can I move to the back because I'm tired of those girls up in the front. Nothing but loud mouth. Plus she wanted to be closer to someone else. Don't blame me. Blame Riley, she asked. When kids ask me questions, I have to answer them to the best of my ability. Plus, everyone knows that the truth is. And that's what everyone knows. All right. You watched the video? Yes. Where is the axis of symmetry located? Because you should just, hey. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe. Shout outs to everyone who I didn't have to talk to today. So, Christian and Ramray and both Hollies. Hannah, Alejandra, Mario, and Joe, and Roger, and Olivia, and Mackenzie, and other Mario. I already said you. and everyone else who I forgot.